Chapter 1 Sphere Inc. The creature slithered, dragging Duen mercilessly toward the mirror's abyss.
No! What's happening? Help!
Duen's anguished cry pierced the air as he was gradually pulled into the mirror, his legs disappearing fast. Desperately, he extended his left arm, clinging to the mirror's edge as he teetered on the brink. In that precarious moment, Duen found himself peering out from within the mirror, his own apartment stretching before him, while behind lay an abyss of impenetrable darkness. With a powerful jerk, the creature's relentless strength proved insurmountable, causing Duen's grip to slip, hurtling him into the void of darkness. He crashed into a substance akin to slick mud.
What's this? What do you want with me?
Duen's desperate cries echoed through the eerie surroundings. The murky sludge beneath him began to glow with an ominous shade of orange, bubbling and roiling. As realization dawned on Duen, a horrifying truth surfaced. He was submerged within a pit of seething, black, boiling lava, its fiery intensity draining his energy. Malevolent, spectral hands emerged from the depths, grasping at him, ensnaring him in a grotesque, nightmarish embrace. The creature hissed ominously as it prowled the periphery of the lava pit, observing Duen's torment.
Ugh! Am I dead? Is this hell? Help me, old man. Lia!
Duen gasped desperately as countless demented hands clutched and dragged him deeper into the scorching abyss. Forced to his knees, he sank further into the infernal lava, his voice fading into the inferno.
All I wanted was to be enough and worthy of her,
he muttered in his dwindling breath. As his form gradually dissolved into the searing depths, a vivid flashback unfolded. The train screeched to a halt, its doors swinging open to a sea of eager commuters. Duen attempted to squeeze in, but the overcrowded carriage offered no respite.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand clear. Doors are closing,
the automated voice announced. Disappointed, Duen retreated onto the platform as the train doors sealed shut. Frustration welled up within him.
I have to take the next one. Shit, at this rate, I'm going to be late on my first day of work,
Duen thought frantically. Pulling out his phone, Duen scrolled through his contacts and selected Leon Coleman.
I'll be late. I couldn't even board the train. It's packed,
he typed quickly before hitting send.
It's orientation day,
Duen whispered to himself, checking his watch anxiously while waiting for the next train. His phone buzzed with Leon Coleman's response.
Dude, it's the first day of work. Are you kidding me?
Came the first message, followed swiftly by, I'll tell them you're unwell.
Hurry up and get here. We're at auditorium level 5.
Duen replied promptly,
All right, thanks. I'll be there soon.
As the train finally arrived, Duen made a desperate attempt and managed to squeeze into the packed carriage just before the doors closed. Relief washed over him as the train jerked forward. He hadn't expected morning rush hour in the city to be this hectic. Relocating to Solzen had marked a pivotal point for him, launching his career at Sphere Inc., the world's largest pharmaceutical corporation. Clad in a sharp black suit and matching tie, Duen surveyed his surroundings and realized he seamlessly blended in with a sea of commuters. Everyone was dressed in business attire, engrossed in their devices and avoiding any semblance of eye contact. Throughout the seemingly endless journey, Duen meticulously monitored his watch, anxiety tightening its grip with each passing minute. As his stop approached, he exited the train, his determination evident in his brisk strides up the escalator. Dashing up the escalator's left side, Duen bypassed the commuters standing to the right. His quick pace contrasted with the leisurely ascent of those around him. As he moved, his gaze wandered, taking in the diverse faces of the city's inhabitants engrossed in their digital worlds, music, videos, texts, immersed in a sea of distractions. No wonder they call it the city rats, Duen mused, taking in the bustling crowd. Exit B, Duen mentally noted as he navigated the underpass toward his destination. As he dashed through the underpass, he couldn't help but notice the video walls bombarding commuters with advertisements. Each screen competed for attention, promoting everything from fashion to entertainment, food, online games, and various services, creating a sensory overload in the bustling underpass. Emerging from the underpass, Duen was immediately greeted by a symphony of blaring car horns and the mesmerizing display of LED video billboards decorating the towering skyscrapers around him. This bustling area was Solzen's central business district, home to the nation's top multinational corporations. With a sense of urgency, he sprinted towards the imposing structure bearing the unmistakable sign, Sphere Inc. Security measures at Sphere Inc. were notoriously stringent, evident from the already formed queue. Frustrated, Duen muttered under his breath, "I'm terribly late." As he reached the front of the security line, Duen searched for a letter containing a QR code and deposited his bag at the baggage check. Moving forward, he approached a biometric iris scan machine.
Duen Edwards,
Greeted an AI voice warmly, and a green light signaled his clearance to proceed. Duen confidently walked through a metal detector, but a disruptive halted his entry process. "Sir, please remove any metal objects, such as keys, and walk through the detector again," instructed the vigilant security guard. Duen checked his pockets. "I don't have any keys. Just a moment," he murmured. With swift precision, Duen loosened his tie and unbuttoned his shirt. His fingers deftly navigated through his collar, retrieving a silver chain adorned with a shimmering crystal stone. The security guard's eyes widened in surprise. "That's quite a sizable diamond," he blurted out. "It could be this," Duen responded quickly, offering a gracious nod as he dropped the pendant in the provided basket. He then passed through the metal sensor and swiftly refastened the pendant around his neck. With determined steps, he entered the building's vast and spacious lobby. Duen muttered, "Level 5 auditorium," as he stepped into the lift and tapped the illuminated 5th floor button. As the glass lift descended through the 30-story building, Duen marveled at its cutting-edge technology and futuristic architecture. The elevator doors slid open on the 5th floor, and Duen bolted toward the auditorium, his shirt hastily unbuttoned and his tie askew. Applause greeted Duen as he reached the auditorium door. Pushing it open, he entered to find a room filled with seated attendees. His eyes quickly found Leon, whose vibrant presence stood out with slicked-back brown hair and an enthusiastic wave. A wave of silence swept across the room as everyone's attention shifted to Duen's entrance. On stage, 2 women and a man greeted him with warm smiles, their eyes reflecting a sense of anticipation.
Duen Edward! Are you Duen Edward?
A man's voice boomed, cutting through the room. He strode purposefully toward Duen, extending his hand in a firm handshake. Dressed impeccably in a suit with a perfectly matching tie, his presence commanded attention.
"Yes, that's me. I apologize for being late,"
Duen responded, a hint of nervousness in his voice.
"He's here, Sarah! Duen Edward has arrived! Welcome! I'm your manager, Peter Santos,"
Pete exclaimed with vibrant gestures, his handshake oozing assertiveness as he firmly clasped Duen's hand. Sarah, the host at the mic, declared,
"Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce our final associate who will be receiving the coveted Sphere Inc. staff pass from Director Beatrice. Please give a warm welcome to Duen Edward."
The room erupted in hearty and enthusiastic applause. Duen stepped onto the stage, his steps betraying a hint of uncertainty. His eyes were drawn to an enchanting woman clad in a sleek black dress, accentuated by white stiletto heels. The dress boasted a daring neckline that tastefully hinted at her ample bosom. Her makeup was bold and dramatic, complemented by a striking shade of red lipstick. A confident smile graced her lips as she elegantly brushed her curled brown hair behind her shoulders, punctuating the gesture with an authoritative applause that exuded both power and self-assurance.
"Congratulations, and welcome to Sphere,"
Director Beatrice said, extending her hand for a handshake. Duen, a mixture of excitement and shyness, offered a slightly awkward smile as he shook her hand. She then gestured for him to bow, reaching to fasten a pass around his neck. Duen complied, lowering his gaze, but unintentionally found himself staring at Beatrice's cleavage. The alluring scent of her perfume made Duen nervous. Glancing to the side, Duen caught Leon's mischievous expression. Leon's raised eyebrow and playful smirk seemed to mockingly say, "Caught you," as he clapped. Duen shot him a frown before making his way down the stage. As he settled beside Leon, the lights dimmed, signaling the next phase of the event.
"It's my utmost pleasure to extend a warm welcome to Senator Klaus,"
Beatrice declared, her words resonating with a resounding round of applause. Senator Klaus adorned a meticulously tailored black suit and tie, exuding sophistication with his neat blonde hair and precisely trimmed beard. A smile graced his lips as he strode confidently toward the orb, joined by Beatrice. Both of them put their hands on the orb.
In 3, 2, 1!
Sarah's announcement echoed through the mic, triggering a dazzling sequence. The auditorium erupted in a symphony of blinking lights, cascading confetti, and a standing ovation. As the lights dimmed once more, an introduction video took center stage, setting the tone for what lay ahead. The video commenced with an air of anticipation.
Welcome to Sphere Inc., where we dare to dream of a future with no boundaries. This marks a new era for humankind,
the narration echoed.
Sphere Inc. had achieved a monumental feat, successfully developing a vaccine for the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, effectively eradicating a formidable sexual disease.
The narration continued.
We can get our vaccine for free as employees,
Leon whispered to Duen. Not wanting any distractions, Duen playfully elbowed Leon. Sphere's share price quadrupled after they discovered that vaccine, Leon couldn't help but remark. Meanwhile, the video continued to unfold.
The government invests $50 billion in Sphere Inc., forging a special partnership,
the narration continued.
Sphere Inc. continues to pledge support to citizens through grants, scholarships, internship opportunities, and full contracts for eligible individuals, promising them an exciting and fulfilling career. The next ambitious project, Eden 2.0, aims to combat anxiety and depression, granting citizens the energy and opportunity to embrace life to the fullest, excel at work, and revel in leisure. Alongside a state-funded initiative, this groundbreaking drug, available in oral form, would be available to all citizens aged 21 and above at heavily subsidized rates,
said the narration. As the video drew to a close, applause and cheers erupted throughout the room. Duen joined the enthusiastic applause, and Leon couldn't resist adding a celebratory whistle. The government's substantial investment in Sphere Inc. explains why the senator is here, Duen observed.
All right, we'll now break for lunch, and I'll catch up with all of you shortly. The cafeteria is in the basement.
Pete's booming voice echoed through the room as he ushered everyone toward the exit. Duen and Leon strolled down the hallway toward the cafeteria. Leon, brimming with excitement, gave Duen a side hug.
Man, I love this place,
Leon exclaimed as he playfully nudged Duen with his shoulder.
And I caught you sneaking a peek at her cleavage, you little perv. Ha ha ha.
He chuckled.
I had to bend down right in front of that plunging neckline, explained Duen, raising his hands in defense.
I won't tell anyone, Leon replied with a mischievous look. Director Beatrice is so beautiful and sexy, though. I'm pretty sure she used all her charms to get where she is. Duen patted Leon's shoulder as they walked. He was genuinely happy for his friend. You look good, and I'm proud of you, he said. They had grown up together, and Leon had overcome numerous challenges to land this coveted job.
I look jet set, don't I? Ha ha!
Leon laughed. Duen smiled. I got this job because of Lia's family connections. They run CT Kosh, one of the largest chain convenience stores and pharmacies here, and Sphere is a big supplier to them.
That's how the world works, Duen,
said Leon with a smile. Duen continued. I think Steve has sent out 50 resumes and hasn't heard back from anyone. Leon shrugged.
He doesn't need to worry. The state guarantees you work if you vote for them. Sure, the tax is high at 50%, but everything else is taken care of. Free education for the kids, job security, state credits, and entertainment. Who cares about the rest, Duen? We'll climb the ladder here at Sphere, and we'll be set,
Leon said optimistically. Entering the Sphere Inc. cafeteria, Duen and Leon were met with a breathtaking sight. The dining area seamlessly merged with a stunning indoor garden, featuring expansive carpet grass patches, wooden square tables, and an inviting outdoor alfresco theme. Some employees were engrossed in a game of frisbee or kicking a ball around, adding to the vibrant atmosphere.
Wow! Duen, look at this!
Leon exclaimed, his eyes scanning the serene surroundings.
We get to enjoy the space. And there's even a swimming pool on level 25. This truly is the best place to work.
Duen nodded in agreement, a sense of prestige washing over him as he gazed at the sprawling, open area.
Being here really is prestigious, he affirmed. Hey, let's meet our new colleagues. Those two girls are hot, Leon suggested, giving Duen a playful nudge.
A smile danced on Leon's lips as he waved to the group. Responding to Leon, 2 girls and a guy returned the gesture, their faces lit up with polite smiles, inviting them over.
Hey, James here.
A bespectacled man in a black suit waved. Duen and Leon acknowledged him with polite nods. Closing the distance, Duen reciprocated the welcoming gesture with a composed smile, his eyes briefly connecting with one of the girls, exchanging a silent acknowledgement.
"Hello, I'm Evelyn,"
said the girl with short blonde hair, her voice dripping with seduction. Her smouldering mascara drew attention to her eyes, and her sharp features were complemented by her short blonde hair, framing her face with undeniable confidence. Wrapped in a body-hugging black dress, her short skirt accentuated her curves in a way that was undeniably alluring. Leon nudged Duen, setting events in motion.
Hi, I'm Duen Edward,
Duen stammered, his bashfulness palpable in his voice. Laughter rippled through the group.
"Oh my god, he's cute,"
Evelyn exclaimed, turning to engage with the other girl. Dion's unassuming appearance was marked by rich, dark brown hair and intense, dark brown eyes. Standing tall, he showcased an athletic, well-built frame, a testament to his rigorous kendo training in his hometown. The other girl laughed heartily.
"Seriously, shy in this day and age? My goodness.
I can't even remember the name of the guy in my room yesterday," she exclaimed between chuckles. She sported long, dark hair with a hint of indigo, tied into 2 ponytails at the sides. Her presence commanded attention in a well-tailored, elegant business suit that expertly accentuated her curves, especially with the addition of sky-high stilettos.
"I'm Simone,"
she introduced herself, extending a smile toward Leon, one that exuded an irresistible fusion of seduction and confidence. Her enchanting eyes, accentuated by layers of mascara, exuded a sense of sensuality.
Leon Coleman, thrilled to be part of the team,
Leon declared with unwavering enthusiasm, his gaze magnetically drawn to Simone. In response, she reciprocated with a seductive smile, her nimble fingers artfully twirling the glossy curls of her indigo hair.
Guys, welcome to Sphere. We've got an incredibly strong team here, the best of the best,
Pete declared confidently as he entered the room.
Just for the record, your resumes have been vetted more than 20 times by myself and senior management. You have no idea how many applicants we had,
Pete added, leaving Duen gasping. 20? That's how tough it is to get in. Pete continued.
Not to mention the multiple rounds of interviews you all cleared. You should be proud of yourselves. Moving forward, the pace and intensity will only pick up. You'll undergo intensive training to prepare you for the task ahead. We expect you to bring in revenue, and management is counting on us to bring in revenue this year mainly with our new drug, Eden 2.0, said Pete. I'm confident all our careers will take off here at Sphere Inc.,
Pete concluded with a smile, earning applause and cheers from the group. Pete then shifted gears, his booming voice filling the room.
Oh yes, we have a strong party culture here at Sphere Inc. You guys like to party, right?
Simultaneously, Simone and Leon replied,
Yeah,
while exchanging flirtatious glances.
Excellent. So, drinks tonight at Madame's. Bring your pass along. Bring your pass along. You can use your state credits now,
Pete announced, igniting more cheers and whistles. State credits can be used for transportation, right? Asked Duen innocently, looking at Evelyn. Evelyn choked on her drink before replying.
Man, state credits do more than just cover transportation. You'll enter the venue for free, redeem drinks, and more.
She winked mischievously. Like a hotel room, Simone added with a naughty wink. Both Evelyn and Simone bursting into laughter. It's not just for entertainment. This pass is powerful. Medical benefits, drugs, vaccines. Most things can be used with this pass, said James. Wow, that's awesome, Leon responded with enthusiasm. Pete chimed in.
Ladies, be nice, okay? Both Duen and Leon are from the country. I believe it's Yongju, right? Duen nodded. They might not fully understand how things work here, so be nice, said Pete. Evelyn tilted her head, offering Duen an alluring smile. Duen returned the smile shyly, feeling awkward. The day ended early at Sphere, and soon Duen and Leon made their way to the subway. The streets remained bustling with honking cars and billboards displaying nightclubs, discos, and suggestive images of women. Promiscuity is so openly promoted here, Leon, Duen remarked as he observed the billboards. The new government is really open, and I like it. Life's short. We should live it up, said Leon. Besides, our company, Sphere Inc., has discovered a cure for HIV. We live in new times, my friend, Leon responded with a carefree tone. Dress up well tonight. We're gonna get lucky, Leon added with a grin. I'll just go for a while. I'm kind of tired, replied Duen with hesitation in his voice. His mind was on someone else. Leon leaned in, offering advice. Look, my boy, partying at Sphere and networking in the city is important. It'll get you far. You want to network and make people like Director Beatrice happy. Even better if you can connect with people like Senator Klaus. These are the kind of people that can get you really far. Duen nodded. It was true that Lia had done him a big favour, and he wanted to make his mark in Sphere. Perhaps I'd have a chance of changing her dad's opinion of me and be worthy of her, thought Duen as they walked. Duen noticed some beggars scattered along the pavement as they strolled. Their palpable desolation was evident, some lost in alcohol with tin cans by their side for alms. Amidst the city's passers-by puffing cigarettes, their eyes glued to screens, the beggars appeared invisible, as if their presence was mundane. The city feels soulless, Duen remarked. What was that? Leon asked absent-mindedly, his fingers tapping away on his phone. Nothing, Duen replied, his gaze returning to the beggars on the street. He discerned a faint shadow, resembling a shroud draped over one of them. Why does that beggar have a black shroud, Leon? Can you see it? Duen inquired, perplexed. A brief exchange of glances occurred between Duen and the beggar, who promptly looked away. They seem burdened with shame, devoid of self-worth, Duen reflected. What did you say? Come on, let's move. We gotta prep for the party, Leon urged, nudging Duen down the subway stairs. They swiped their Sphere passes at the subway entrance. Catch you later, buddy. Don't be late, Leon reminded, waving as he disappeared into the crowd. Duen nodded, waving back, then checked his phone, spotting an unread message from Lia Curtiss. How was your first day? Duen's face lit up as he read the message. Entering the train car, he swiftly tapped out a reply. It was amazing. Your connections really came through, Lia. I owe you big time, he messaged back. You're welcome. Always here for my fellow Kondo Junior, Lia replied. Duen hesitated, his fingers hovering over the keyboard as he typed and erased a message several times. Damn, I'm such a coward, he muttered, covering his face with his palm and inhaling deeply. Gathering his resolve, he finally composed a message. Can I treat you to dinner tomorrow, as a thank you? Duen anxiously watched the typing indicator next to Lia's name, and her response popped up. Tomorrow works, but only after 7 p.m. My dad's got me stuck in a board meeting, and those things always run late. Yeah! Duen couldn't contain his excitement, fist punching the air, until he noticed the stares from fellow passengers on the train. Yeah, sure, 7 p.m. works, he hastily replied on his phone. Leo's response flashed in. I'll meet you at 7 p.m. at Lateria. Awesome, can't wait, Duen shot back, a wide grin stretching across his face. Exiting the subway, Duen's steps guided him to his rented apartment. Securing a job at Sphere Inc. meant relocating to Solzen. However, his budget only stretched to this modest suburban area, a 50-minute train ride from Sphere's central office. As Duen opened the door to his apartment, the adjacent door followed suit. In pajama-like attire, a middle-aged woman with a green facial mask and an assortment of hair clips peered out. You're back. When are you going to cough up the extra deposit? 2 months up front, and you've only paid for 1, she inquired, her eyes scanning Duen's demeanor while she stood just outside her doorway.
Hi, Clancy. I understand the deposit issue. I've recently started working, and I'll be able to settle it with my next month's paycheck, Duen explained. Working at Sphere required investing in a suit and shoes, which ate into his savings. Fine. Just don't forget. Clancy snapped back, her tone curt as she swiftly closed her door. Of course, Duen replied softly, pondering why everyone in the city seemed so brusque. Entering his cramped, rented apartment, he settled onto his bed, wondering if the problem lay with him. With an evening event in Jingku district looming, he realized he'd need to start preparing soon. At 9 p.m., Duen stepped into the pulsating heart of Jingku, the city's nocturnal epicenter, boasting a plethora of pubs, nightclubs, and its notorious red light district. Recalling tales of Jingku, he brimmed with anticipation to experience it firsthand. The streets blazed with vivid reds, blues, and pinks, neon lights casting a beguiling yet tantalizing allure. It was as though these luminous beacons served as a cautionary tale, a subtle warning that one could easily succumb to the city's myriad temptations and lose oneself in its embrace. Towering video billboards and LED displays dominated the skyline, flaunting ads for high-end nightclubs and the latest designer fashion. The streets swarmed with a diverse array of people, locals craving revelry and curious tourists hungry for adventure in this neon-lit wonderland. Women in alluring attire beckoned passers-by into nightclubs, while sharply dressed men radiated anticipation at every turn. Promiscuity seems openly embraced here, Duen observed, witnessing women openly negotiating prices with men before slipping into motels. They say Jingku is a district that never sleeps, a place where one can easily lose themselves in the whirlwind of the night, he whispered to himself. Duen couldn't help but notice that even the interiors of these motels radiated in intense neon pink, heightening the district's seductive allure. As he continued his stroll down the street, a sudden loud noise snagged his attention. In the distance, a colossal video billboard showcased an advertisement for Sphere Inc.'s drugs like Flow and Eden. The ad depicted women in suggestive poses, enticing viewers with promises of pleasure and escape. Duen felt a sudden tug on his arm, turning to find Evelyn, her arm now hooked through his, playfully chiming,
"You're late."
Her seductive aura was palpable, dressed in a vibrant red party dress that hugged her curves and accentuated her ample bosom. The daringly short skirt flirted with each step she took, while a bunny ear hairband perched atop her head added a playful touch. Her flushed face hinted that she had already indulged in a bit too much to drink. Hi, Duen greeted with a shy, awkward smile.
"Come on, everyone's waiting,"
Evelyn exclaimed, playfully tugging him towards Madame's entrance, her arm still entwined with his. They scanned their Sphere Inc. passes and entered the premises. Inside, darkness shrouded the space, punctuated by intermittent flashes of light and the deafening beats of music. Just beyond the entrance, Duen glimpsed couples passionately locked in kisses on the nightclub floor.
Duen, you made it!
Pete shouted, his voice barely audible above the pounding music as he enveloped Duen in a warm hug. Director Beatrice, elegantly attired in a sleek black dress, greeted Duen with a smile as he stepped into the club.
All right, here's to the team!
Pete's voice boomed, raising his glass. The room resounded with a clink of glasses as everyone, including Director Beatrice, happily joined in the toast, sipping whiskey in celebration. Amidst the cheers and clinking glasses, Duen couldn't shake the feeling of being slightly out of place, especially as he noticed Leon engrossed in conversation with another girl. Noticing Duen's discomfort, Evelyn swiftly approached, linking her arm with his. With a meaningful glance, she gestured for Duen to follow, and he complied. Amidst the pulsating beats, she guided him to the bar.
"Come on, you clearly need something strong to unwind. So, what's your poison?"
she teased, a playful eyebrow arched as she smiled. Huh? Duen replied, unsure how to respond to Evelyn's confident demeanor.
2 house special, please, with flow,
Evelyn ordered, sliding her Sphere pass for scanning. Duen remained curious, yet puzzled. What did you order? He asked, raising his voice over the blaring music.
"You'll find out shortly." "Ah, here they are."
Evelyn replied as the tray arrived, bearing 2 cocktail glasses brimming with a mesmerizing white, green, and blue-colored liquid. Beside each glass lay a pink pill. With a playful demeanor, Evelyn dropped one of the pink pills into Duen's drink, giving him a sly smile. The pill fizzled and dissolved, leaving Duen with a blank expression, unsure of what had just transpired.
What? Don't tell me you don't know what this is. You got into Sphere Inc. without researching our best-selling drug?
Evelyn chuckled in disbelief.
If I tell Director Beatrice you don't know about Flo, I bet she won't be pleased,
she added mischievously, her ambition gleaming in her intense stare.
This is Flo,
Evelyn explained, picking up the pink pill to show it to Duen.
It surpasses all the other party pills like ecstasy and ketamine, which have nasty side effects. Flo has 0 withdrawal, no headaches, and you won't dehydrate. It's all the fun without the dangers, and it's developed by Sphere Inc.,
she continued, twirling the pill between her fingers.
Go on, it's safe and legal, made by your own company. You need to try it. How do you promote it if you've never even tried it?
Evelyn encouraged, dropping her own pill into her cocktail and taking a sip. Duen felt unsure, but intrigued. Made by Sphere Inc. What does it do? Duen asked, still hesitant.
Drink it! It makes you happy,
Evelyn urged, growing impatient as she pushed Duen's hand, urging him to take a sip. Duen paused for a moment before convincing himself. Okay, I need to know what it is in order to sell it, right? With his curiosity overpowering his hesitation, he finally drank the cocktail. Evelyn's eyes gleamed as she watched Duen finish his cocktail, a sly smile creeping onto her face.
Yay! I heard Eden 2.0 will make Flo seem like child's play, and we'll be directly involved in research, marketing, and selling it. I'm excited, she cheered with enthusiasm. Hey, everyone's over there! Let's join them,
Evelyn exclaimed, seizing Duen's hand and pulling him toward the dance floor as she waved to the rest of the group. Disoriented by the booming music, Duen asked, Where are we going?
To the dance floor!
Evelyn yelled above the music as they maneuvered through the crowd. Upon reaching the group, Duen noticed everyone from Sphere Inc. was already dancing, some visibly intoxicated.
Duen, you're here!
James exclaimed, his face illuminated with joy as he danced with the girl. Duen smiled and waved politely. He couldn't help but notice Leon, already intoxicated, gyrating wildly with a girl. Duen's vision blurred and his sensations slowed down as his heart raced to the music's beat. He surrendered to the rhythm, letting loose in the crowded dance floor's whirl.
How is it? Are you having fun?
Evelyn asked, her hand resting on Duen's chest amidst the pulsating energy. With little room to maneuver, the dance floor buzzed with exhilaration.
You're drunk,
Evelyn chuckled as she leaned in. Duen's gaze lingered on Evelyn, momentarily transfixed by a mesmerizing pink hue in her eyes. Amidst the swirling crowd, Lia appeared right before him. Lia? Lia, is that you? Duen gasped as Lia guided his hands to her supple waist. She drew closer, draping both arms over Duen's shoulders, swaying sensually to the music with him. As the music enveloped them, Duen felt himself drifting away. Time seemed to slow down. Lia leaned in, her voice soft as she complimented, Your eyes are beautiful, before whispering, I can take you to paradise, in his ear. With that, she moved sensually toward Duen's lips, sealing them in a passionate kiss. In Lia's residence, she was immersed in her work on her laptop when a sudden gust of wind invaded her room, disrupting the tranquility. Papers scattered across her table took flight, prompting her to scramble and prevent them from being whisked away. In her frantic attempt to secure the documents, she accidentally knocked over a cup of water, watching in dismay as the liquid seeped into the papers. Gazing at the now water-stained documents on her table, a sense of foreboding washed over her. It was as though this unforeseen disturbance foretold an impending bad omen. Inside Madame's nightclub, Duen found himself lost in a blissful daze, convinced he was kissing Lia. In the midst of this enchanting moment, the pendant hanging from his neck suddenly grew unbearably hot, jolting him awake. Ouch! he exclaimed as he peeled away from the kiss, instinctively yanking the pendant away from his chest. With a bewildered gaze, he realized it wasn't Lia he was kissing, but Evelyn. I'm sorry. I have to go, Duen uttered abruptly as he stumbled away from the dance floor. Confused and still reeling from the effects of his hallucination, his mind raced to comprehend what had just transpired. Shit. I wasn't myself. I was hallucinating. And that wasn't Lia, he muttered to himself, shaking his head in an attempt to regain his composure. Determined to sober up, Duen exited Madame's nightclub and hailed a taxi. Clumsily, he entered the vehicle and directed it toward his home. The next morning, Duen stirred from sleep and ambled to the sink, where he splashed cold water onto his face. As the refreshing cascade washed away the remnants of the night before, he couldn't help but ponder his peculiar experience. Last night, that was really out of character for me. That pill, flow, it felt liberating. Exhilarating, he whispered, his thoughts fixating on the pink pill and the strange sensation it had induced. With a faint unease tugging at him, Duen sauntered into the living room of his new apartment. His gaze fell upon his shinai, a wooden kendo sword, hanging on the wall. It stood as one of the few cherished possessions he had brought from home, a poignant reminder of the life he had left behind. His attention gravitated towards the phone on the table, displaying an unread message. Duen activated it, greeted by a low voice.
Duen, how are you settling in, my boy? I hope things are going well. Call me when you have time, and remember to meditate. It'll help.
The voice message concluded with a beep. Duen's eyes lingered on a photo frame nearby, enclosing a cherished picture. In the photograph, Duen, Lia, and Gus, their kendo instructor from their hometown, stood together in their kendo attire. Gus, with his grey hair and matching beard, exuded wisdom and experience. Grandpa Gus. I miss him. This change is making me so homesick, Duen muttered, his voice filled with nostalgia. At work that day, Duen eagerly anticipated his evening with Lia. He arrived early at Lateria, an upscale restaurant nestled in the heart of the city. Gosh, this place looks pricey, he mused as he stepped through the entrance. Nervousness gnawed at him. His budget was tight, having allocated most of his funds to rent and new attire since his arrival in Solzen.
Good evening, sir. Any reservations?
The waiter inquired as Duen approached.
Any special discount with this?
He asked, flashing his Fear pass.
Only drinks, sir. Do you have a reservation?
The waiter politely clarified.
Yes, it should be under Lia Curtiss,
Duen replied.
Ah, Miss Lia Curtiss, certainly. This way, sir,
the waiter responded, guiding Duen to a table with a breathtaking window view overlooking the city. This is a stunning view of the city, Duen thought to himself as he settled into a seat, captivated by the sunset painting the sea in hues of orange, while boats gracefully sailed around the Bay Area. His attention shifted as Lia entered from the concierge. She donned an elegant navy business dress, expertly tailored to accentuate her curves. Sweeping her long brown hair behind her shoulders, she revealed a warm smile. Black stilettos elevated her stature, and her makeup highlighted her beautiful, deep-set eyes.
Hi! I managed to end early today,
Lia exclaimed, waving at Duen as she approached. He was momentarily spellbound by her presence.
Is there something on my face?
Lia asked, puzzled by his dazed expression as she settled into her seat. No, nothing. You look gorgeous, Duen stammered, his nerves palpable as the scent of Lia's floral perfume enveloped them.
Thank you,
Lia replied, a subtle blush gracing her cheeks. Let's order. I'm so hungry, she suggested, flipping open the menu. What are you having? Duen hesitated, then replied, I'll have the salad. I've been putting on some weight.
Duen, let me get this. I chose this place to welcome you. I hope you're settling into the city well,
Lia said with a warm smile. But I'm supposed to buy you dinner to thank you, Duen protested.
You can get the next one,
Lia replied, her smile unwavering. Of course, the next date, Duen added with a grin. Lia's face tinged with red as she focused on the menu, not directly responding to Duen's remark. They relished their meal, their laughter echoing in the air as they caught up like old friends often do. Exiting the restaurant, they strolled to the main road, where Duen waited with Lia for her driver. Lia, thanks again for helping me get into Sphere Inc. I owe it to you. Duen expressed his gratitude. Lia's smile warmed.
Hey, we're friends. If you really want to thank me, just do your best, and I'll be genuinely happy for you.
She paused, her expression softening.
I actually admire your strength and courage, making the decision you wanted and going for it. I hope everything's going smoothly. It's been quite a big change for you moving here, hasn't it?
It's been a ride. I'm trying my best to fit in. They have such a strong party culture here, and I'm not sure if I enjoy it, Duen confessed.
I know what you mean. I understand what obligations can be like.
Lia empathized, her tone carrying a subtle hint of sadness. Duen wondered for a moment if he should ask Lia about it.
I guess sometimes we have to play the game, even if we don't enjoy every aspect of it,
Lia added after a pause. Speaking of the game, something strange happened last night, said Duen. I took the flow pill.
Flow, the party drug developed by Sphere Inc., recently made legal?
Lia chimed in, her expression slightly puzzled. Duen continued. Yeah, and something happened. I ended up kissing a colleague. It was bizarre. I felt...
You what?
Lia interrupted, her tone tinged with surprise. She glanced at Duen, her eyes veiled behind a thick layer of mascara and makeup, making it difficult to read her emotions. Or rather, she kissed me, Duen clarified, realizing how unclear his previous statement had been. He hesitated, not entirely sure how to elaborate further. Lia fell silent, turning her gaze to the passing cars on the road. It was weird. The pill gave me a feeling of exhilaration. How is this even safe if you can't control your senses? Duen remarked, growing increasingly uneasy. Lia did not respond and simply looked ahead on the road. As a black car pulled up, Duen noticed a change in Lia's demeanor. Lia, are you okay? He asked, concern evident in his voice.
That's Uncle Max. I am. Goodbye,
Lia responded hastily, waving as she boarded the car. Duen watched the car drive away, his hand still held up in a half-wave. Throughout the subway journey home, an unsettling sensation clung to him. Upon reaching his apartment, he swiftly grabbed his phone, typing out a message to Lia. Lia, are you home? Are you okay? Lia's prompt response brought relief flooding through Duen.
I'm home. I'm okay.
Reading her words, he released a heavy breath. Despite her reassurance, sleep remained elusive, tossing him in a sea of restlessness. The intricacies of urban life weighed heavily on his thoughts. The ceaseless pursuit of success, the cycle of accumulating wealth, only to squander it on fleeting pleasures, all seemed surreal. Am I the only one questioning this? Duen wondered, the restlessness persisting. I need this job, he acknowledged, recognizing its significance. Lia's family possessed wealth and ran a thriving business, yet her father's opinion of him remained uncertain. Progressing within Sphere was Duen's avenue to validate his worth, especially to Lia's father. Tossing and turning, he eventually succumbed to sleep, thoughts lingering in the realm of uncertainty. In the days that followed, Duen found himself engulfed in an unyielding routine. Every morning, he dashed to catch the train bound for Sphere Inc., surrounded by a barrage of advertisements on train screens, LED billboards, and subway walls. The streets were dotted with beggars, their faces etched with despair, adding to the atmosphere of enigmatic foreboding. Within the towering confines of Sphere Inc.'s headquarters, relentless product training sessions unfurled, punctuated by fervent sales meetings. As twilight descended upon the skyline, the evening rituals began, nights filled with visits to favored nightclubs and discos. These gatherings inevitably revolved around the omnipresent flow pill, and promiscuity subtly solidified as the norm. Duen, resolved to remain true to himself, would discreetly pocket the pill, disposing of it later. Lia's comforting words from the previous night faded fast. Her increasing distance manifested in brief replies, Or worse, silence. Beyond work, she consumed Duen's every thought, contrasting sharply with his colleagues' late-night revelries, leaving him engulfed in solitude. As Duen hurried through the subway that morning, the scene unfolded predictably. Beggars lined the floor, faces etched with despair, while an enigmatic shroud loomed over them like a haunting shadow. Among the group, one figure stood out, an elderly man with a mane of frizzy white hair and an unkempt beard. His tattered clothes emitted a pungent odor, and a rusty tin can sat at his feet, a vessel for meager offerings. Driven by curiosity, Duen slowed his pace and approached the old beggar, nestled in a dimly lit corner. A sense of determination washed over him that morning, propelling him to unravel the mystery of the black shroud. The flickering lights cast an eerie ambience as Duen drew near. With a deep breath, he reached out to touch and investigate the strange black shroud hovering over the beggar. To his astonishment, his hand passed through it, as though it were a fleeting mist. "What is this?" Duen muttered to himself, his puzzlement deepening. Just then, something massive moved through the shadows. "What was that?" Duen gasped, withdrawing his hand and scanning the area. The flickering light continued to cast irregular shadows, but there was nothing else to be seen. "He has imprisoned us all, hasn't he?" said the beggar, still not lifting his gaze. "What do you want?" the beggar added, taking a glance at Duen and then locking eyes with him. The old beggar's weathered face transformed in an instant. With an almost prophetic tone, he uttered, "You will suffer immensely and be plunged into the depths of despair and sorrow, but only through that will you become." Duen was taken aback by the cryptic remark, but the distant rumble of the approaching train reminded him that he was running late. He offered an apologetic nod and swiftly deposited a note into the beggar's tin can, before hurrying to catch the train. As evening settled over his apartment, Duen grappled with a weight of loneliness. His phone, a constant companion, betrayed his anticipation with its silence. "Still nothing from Lia," he muttered, disappointment etching lines into his face. Yet, a flicker of hope emerged as he noticed an unread voice message on his apartment's phone, reminding him of the messages he had left for Lia. Anticipation coursed through him as he pressed play. "How are you settling in, son? Is everything okay? Are you meditating? Don't slack off on that. It'll help you cope with the change," said Gus on the voice message. Disappointment gnawed at Duen as he longed for Lia's voice instead. "Everything's not okay. I don't know what's wrong. Is it this place, or is it me?" he bellowed, his fist crashing onto the table. "The one person who kept me sane is now ignoring me," he lamented, his voice heavy with despair. "She hasn't replied to any of my messages. Maybe she doesn't share my feelings," Duen thought, as Lia's silence weighed heavily on him. "Why would she? There are plenty of better options out there," Duen reasoned, his confidence waning. "I'm not wealthy, not like the others vying for her attention. Perhaps I just don't belong here," Duen murmured, his spirits sinking further. Gazing at his reflection in the tabletop mirror, Duen noticed a strange presence enveloping him, a dark shroud reminiscent of the one haunting the subway beggars. Doubt crept in. "Am I imagining things?" he questioned aloud. Examining his shoulders, he returned to the mirror, only to find the shroud vanished. Duen was puzzled as he rubbed his eyes, but he decided to brush it aside. "I need answers from Lia. Why is she so distant? Did I do something wrong?" he resolved, eyeing the shanai hanging on the wall before grabbing his sweater and heading out. Duen arrived at Lia's residence at about 9 p.m. He was determined to unravel the mystery behind her recent coldness. "Lia! Lia, are you there? Did I say something wrong that night? Are you upset with me?" yelled Duen from outside Lia's double-story house. His voice echoed through the open window of her room. He had walked Lia home countless times when they were students and knew exactly where her room was located. As Duen waited, a sleek black car pulled up, and a middle-aged man in a tailored suit exited the vehicle. "Good evening, Mr. Anderson." Duen greeted him as he opened the gate. Mr. Anderson paused, appraising Duen with a hint of skepticism. "You're the young man Lia pleaded with me to assist in joining Sphere Inc. Lia's kendo companion, correct? He inquired, his gaze tinged with judgment. That's correct, sir. Duen Edward, responded Duen respectfully. The main door of Lia's house opened, and a cheerful maid appeared.
Good evening, sir.
She addressed Mr. Anderson before turning to Duen with a friendly smile. Hi, Lucy. I'm here because, said Duen as he began to explain his purpose for the visit, but was swiftly cut off by Mr. Anderson. She's occupied at the moment. That's the reason, he interjected. Lucy, her expression sympathetic, added, Dear, Lia's unavailable right now. Perhaps you could return another time. Duen sighed, his disappointment palpable as he lowered his head. All right, thanks, Lucy. Good night, Mr. Anderson, he muttered before turning away from Lia's residence. Mr. Anderson offered a perfunctory wave without meeting Duen's eyes, while Lucy ascended the stairs to Lia's room. He's left, honey, Lucy informed Lia with a gentle smile. Give him a chance. That young man has courage, reaching out to you like that repeatedly. I've always had a soft spot for him. Lia paused, grappling with her emotions and how to respond. You don't need to explain anything to me, Lucy continued, but I can see you care for him. You wouldn't be this upset otherwise. Lia remained silent, peering out from behind her curtain as she watched Duen's figure recede down the street, lost in contemplation. As Duen arrived at his apartment, a profound sense of desolation enveloped him, as if the world had conspired to overwhelm him all at once. Slumped into the bathroom, he wearily raised his gaze to confront the mirror, only to be met with the ominous sight of the black shroud. This time, it was undeniably real and unnervingly dense. This is the same shroud that was hovering above the beggar, gasped Duen in disbelief as he rubbed his eyes. From within the depths of the shroud, something began to stir, creeping towards him. Ah! Duen screamed in terror. His heart pounded against his chest as he stared wide-eyed into the mirror. From within the depths of the black shroud, a creature resembling a black mantis slithered out with deliberate menace. Whirling around in terror, he frantically scanned the apartment, his pulse racing as he scrutinized every shadow, fearing what lurked behind. There's nothing. What was that? He gasped, questioning the validity of his senses and the eerie encounter in his reflection. Duen's gaze reluctantly returned to the mirror, only to witness a colossal, mantis-like creature materialize before him. Its elongated arms, ending in razor-sharp, blade-like pincers, emerged first from the depths of the mirror. As it crawled out of the mirror, it filled the room with an ominous hiss. Frozen in fear, Duen took hesitant steps backward, trapped in a terror-induced trance. Suddenly, the creature lunged forward, its blade-like pincers piercing Duen's legs, igniting searing agony. Ah! Help! He screamed, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he scrambled away, his eyes fixated on the wooden shinai hanging on the wall of the living room. Without hesitation, he seized his kendo sword. What the hell is that? I didn't take any drugs. I can't be hallucinating. Duen's words tumbled out amid gasps, his breaths deep and ragged, the wound on his leg oozing blood, his senses compromised. Sitting on the floor, he clutched his shinai, pointing it toward the direction he came from, his hands trembling violently. The creature's hiss echoed ominously as it slithered out of the bathroom, advancing menacingly toward Duen. No! Help! Monster! Stay away from me! Duen's desperate cry reverberated through the room. The creature surged forward, thrusting its blade-like pincers into his leg, eliciting a gut-wrenching scream of agony. With relentless force, it dragged Duen across the blood-streaked floor toward a full-sized mirror near his bed. In a frenzy, Duen clung to the furniture, his fingers desperately seeking traction, yet his efforts proved fruitless as he inexorably slid closer. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled desperation, Duen shifted tactics, whirling to face the creature and battering it relentlessly with a shinai. Blow after blow rained down, but the creature's robust exoskeleton deflected each strike, rendering his efforts futile. With a powerful yank, the creature dragged him into the mirror, hurling him into the abyss.